Welcome to the Whole Hair Sam podcast. I'm your host. My name is Sam. You are so very welcome. If you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hit us up in the comment section, like and share the video. Today we're talking about child sexual abuse. It's a very heavy topic today. So please do, if you have any comments or any thoughts after the program, please do hit us up in the comment section. Child sexual abuse, also called child molestation, is a form of child abuse in which an adult or older adolescent uses a child for sexual stimulation. Forms of child sexual abuse include engaging sexual activities with a child, whether by asking or pressuring or by other means, indecent exposure, child grooming, and child sexual exploitation. To help me talk about this further is Ernie Bwalya, who is a psychotherapist. Welcome, Ernie. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for making time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sam. And I appreciate you inviting me to this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Getting straight into it. What is child sexual abuse?
Okay, so there is a definition that I came across, and there are so many aspects that I appreciate about this definition. So let me just, it'll really seem like a mouthful, but I feel that it's very important that I bring out certain aspects that are included in this definition. So, and this is something that is taken from criminal law, eh? Because the issue that we're talking about obviously is something that goes against any law. So sexual abuse. Okay, so when we talk about sexual abuse, we are then talking about any act of sexual contact, okay, that a person suffers, submits to, participates in, or performs as a result of force. So I actually noted in your preamble that that's something that you even mentioned. So as a result of force, violence, threats, fear, or deception, or without having legally consented to the act. So now sexual contact in this context obviously would be understood as any intentional touching, you know. So it doesn't necessarily have to be penetration, even just inappropriate touching under criminal law constitutes as sexual abuse. So touching, fondling, penetration, which obviously we are mostly familiar with, of any intimate parts of a victim's body, you know, by the perpetrator, the perpetrator for the purpose of arousing or satisfying the perpetrator's sexual desires, or as a means of degrading, humiliating, punishing the victim. Okay. So if you have noted, like there's a lot of terms that are coming in, but what I really appreciate about this, and this is something that we have heard in our society, especially when some of the children report these incidents, the first question they'll ask is, did they penetrate? You know, and if the person didn't, then it is dismissed. So it's very important to note that sexual abuse constitutes of, you know, like any form of inappropriate touch, fondling, and mostly what you note is that this is also, there's a power dynamic. So in most cases, it is performed by somebody that is otherwise older and is either forcing or you know, just sometimes actually you've also heard of how children are even given sweets, you know, so there's deception also that goes on there.
Okay, so now, what do perpetrators of child sexual abuse look like, or who are the most common?
What do they look like? You know, there's no way of telling, eh? If we say there's a certain way that you know, a perpetrator of such hideous crimes looks like, then we'll actually be lying, or probably we are going to judge somebody wrongly. You cannot tell. Even the next person that you are seated to, obviously no offense to anybody that you are next to there, but even the next person that you're seated to obviously could be a potential perpetrator. So there is no way of knowing. I will tell you this, Sam, that most of these cases are actually recorded by almost 90% of people that the child knows, that the child is familiar with, trusts even. that the child probably is even in contact with. And so this would be a family member, this would be a teacher, this would be a doctor, this would be a clergy, whoever, So 90% of the perpetrators are actually individuals that the child knows and, is familiar with, or if it's not the child's family is close to, right? So the child's family in this regard also would even be, any guardian, for instance, any person who obviously is the sole custodian of this child.
Now, I asked that question because there's a case that's rocked the nation. Everybody's been talking about this. They're putting it on the social media as well, where a 47-year-old man was caught raping his sick 7-year-old biological daughter in a hospital bathroom. The incident unfolded with other caregivers. I'll just read this on what it says. The incident unfolded when other caregivers at the hospital noticed suspicious behavior by the father, who made it a habit to bath his daughter late at night, around 10 o'clock at night. The child's excessive cries in the midst of a running water tap during the sessions raised further concerns from witnesses who reported seeing the father bathing with his daughter with both their clothes hung on the bathroom door. So this situation alerted caregivers, who then went on to later alert the authorities. Now, like we said, what do perpetrators look like? Like you said, it's those people who are closest to you, people that they know. So in this case, it's a father who is supposed to protect his daughter, who's supposed to be there for his daughter. So that's why I asked the question, what do the perpetrators look like? Because these are people who
It
are
actually
closest
makes
to you.
so it really makes sad reading. And obviously, that case is one of the few cases that, are recorded. A lot of people get to know about them, but also you and I are privy to the fact that there are many, many other cases that are not even reported. Imagine what would have happened if those people did not even, observe the unusual activity in the bathroom. And that's the thing about sexual abuse. It's a series of such acts. It's not just a once-off activity. Sexual assault would be a once-off activity by a perpetrator, but when we talk sexual abuse, it is a series of, these incidents by either one perpetrator, by a group for a very long time. And that's how come you find that other people would even report having been abused for so many years, like probably they even get to adulthood. There's somebody, I think just the recent news yesterday, highlight on the Ministry of Community Development when they went and closed down that orphanage in Lusaka. And one of the persons that was interviewed actually narrated how this is something that has been ongoing for so long. She went to that orphanage when she was only, I think, about 7 years old. And now this person is over 20 years old, and this has been ongoing. When she tried to report this to the wife of the bishop, her report was dismissed, and she was actually asked to go and apologize, kneel down and apologize to the bishop, because how do you even say such things about him? So there is a lot of such cases that are happening, but because by definition also we've spoken about how there is a power dynamic, there's a lot of force that is applied, there's violence, there's intimidation that is ongoing. There's a lot of things that are said to these children. And obviously, just by nature, a child is helpless, okay? And that's why these perpetrators are even taking advantage of children, because they know, they are even aware of the power dynamic, and they are aware that when I say this to this child will have no option but to succumb to, allow me to do whatever it is that I want to do to the child. And it is no wonder it's actually a criminal offense, because even when it is assumed as the child consented to it, developmentally, this child is so young to even comprehend what is happening to them. So whether the child said yes, whether the child actually walked into this room, for as long as this child is below 18, whatever it is that went on, you are liable to actually criminal offenses, because this is a minor.
Hmm. Now, there's been speculation that the reason this man was doing this, allegedly, we say allegedly because we don't really have the correct info, but allegedly is because he was doing it for ritual purposes. What do you think goes through the mind of a sexual abuser when it's their own children? What goes through their head? What is it that happens? Is it a child? Is it something that's probably coming from childhood that they experience themselves and they believe this behavior is normal?
It has so many faces, eh? And we can only speculate at this point. Of course, there has been research that would indicate to so many factors, right? It could be a mental disorder, really. I mean, just behaviors that are by any social standard, like just considered inappropriate. So it could be a mental disorder, a lack of values also. It could be beliefs also, and for that particular, and especially for the ones that are associated to rituals, it then stems from specific beliefs that people hold on to, so you are told or you are made to believe that when you perform such an act, then you will be wealthy, then a certain disease, you will be rid of a certain chronic illness. So
Mhm.
there is a belief that is formed there, and from there, then you get behavior. In therapy, we actually talk about the cognitive triangle and how a lot of behavior stems from specific thoughts and emotions that we have. Okay, so yes, for some, it's really a lack of knowledge and understanding, and probably for some it's illiteracy, but we cannot completely attribute it to that, because we also have learned people, that have also, performed such acts. So for some, it could be beliefs. It's also really just a lack of moral standards. Really, I don't know. Like the world that we are living in now, it has become so complex, and it's very difficult to understand how people are reasoning. It's a lack of self-discipline. It's a lack of, values. Recently, obviously, there was even, a press statement about just an emphasis of values as a nation. So it's a lot of things that come to play, but they are specific beliefs, especially from a traditional point of view, that certain people hold on to. Is the same way that you would find people attacking albinos, for instance, because there's a certain belief that they have about albinism. It's the same thing that even happens. So we really do not know. Like you said, yes, we can only speculate, but it also just is actually very sad, and that's why I really do applaud initiatives, even like the one that you're also doing, Sam, of just raising awareness around this particular topic. And hopefully, it can get to the right people and they would be able to challenge some of these beliefs and just re examine some of these things that we have normalized,
Yeah.
because, like, there's really no explanation for such hideous and just criminal acts by adults.
Yes. Um, when the news broke, um, I was on my way to a meeting, and I heard on a particular platform, they put the question out there, and a lot of people called in to, to express their disbelief, to express their anger as well. A lot of anger was pointed towards the healthcare facility and the staff at the healthcare facility, asking where were they, why didn't they do something sooner, and also a lot of questions were pointed towards where was her mother, Why wasn't she there at the hospital? So a lot of people did say allegedly, the husband had said to her, "You can't come to the bedside because it is a English speaking place. Well, you're illiterate. You cannot come there." So as much as many people did call in and express their views, no one mentioned the abuser, her father. That's the thing that caught me off guard. And also another thing where there was one person who called in and he had said, we need to look into the homes as well. The reason these things are happening, or he alluded to the fact that these things are happening because in their homes, wives are withholding sex from their husbands. So the husbands are now forced to go look elsewhere. So for me, that caught me off guard, and I'm not supposed to give an opinion, but I felt, I was like, Jesus Christ, like this is the mentality of people out there who, I don't want to say they're almost justifying the behavior, or maybe I should say they're justifying the
Well,
behavior.
they are.
It
It's okay, you
was
can say it
justifying the
because they
behavior.
are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was, mm. And I just thought of the
I
leader.
hear you. I hear you because right now my blood is also just really boiling. Like
Yes.
I cannot even sit in such a conversation and even stay quiet because yes, in a way we are actually enabling, we are enabling it. We are we are justifying this
The be
person's behavior
Yeah.
and normalizing it and then apportioning blame to individuals that we believe are supposed to be on guard. But is that how we are supposed to actually live our lives? Like what happened to a man being a protector, especially in a case where it's abuse from a man? So what happens to a man being a protector? Because a man should be that. What happens to a father being the one that actually provides safety? When we speak about a man providing, we're just not talking about financial resources. We are also talking about safety for a child. Like, should people be in relationships? Should women be in relationships and always be on guard? Because a part of you is supposed to submit and give yourself fully to this man, but then a part of you should always be on guard and look out for what's the worst thing that he could do. Then where is
Yes.
the sense of safety in that family dynamic? Like, then what are we even doing in these relationships in the first place? What am I even doing having children with you if I cannot completely trust you? So it's very wrong that we are able to actually, like sort of sugarcoat the subtle invalidation that comes from such sentiments, because that's really invalidating the gravity of this. That's also in a way just enabling the inhuman acts that a lot of people are sending out there. It's wrong, and we should just say it is wrong. Like I said, a lot of these people are performed, a lot of these acts like sexual abuse, sexual assault, and any form of abuse is actually performed by somebody that we have trusted. So,
Mm.
how is it then that when this child was just admitted in hospital, right, and they saw that a father is at the bedside, the father was not immediately chased?
Mm.
Because a man is not supposed to be at the bedside of a daughter, right?
Yes.
So obviously, just instinctively, everybody looked at that and said, "Oh wow, that's a very caring father. I mean, look at how he's concerned over the child's welfare. I wish a lot of men could actually do that. Like he's even considered a model of a parent because he's present for the daughter." And then the moment that there is now this, incident reported, then we start questioning, where is the mother? That is a huge task to place on a woman, and it's actually very unfair that we have to look for who to apportion blame to when
Yeah.
they are equally distraught at this news. they also have experienced their own trauma, actually. So it is wrong, it is wrong. Let us not look for you know, okay, no at the end of the day, he is wrong, and we should just maintain it as that he is wrong. The moment
Yes.
we start now looking at, but where was where was this and where was that, then we actually, you know, minimize the gravity that this offense has.
Mm-hmm.
So I concur with you. Like, I'm really with you on this. I think it's very wrong how society, you know, places. And yes, I've really heard a lot of activists and all, and women are saying, you know, we need to go and march because you're doing this to our daughters and all that. Now that's good. That's okay. But where are the men? You know, like, men and women, let's go and march because this is happening to our daughters,
Our daughters, yes.
our sisters. We should not normalize. And yes, much as this is mostly happening, but we should not normalize the beliefs that it is possible. Yeah, so a man has the capacity to protect, but also he will be the greatest villain because he has the capacity to harm. I mean, we also have recorded cases of women being the ones that are actually abusing boys, the boy children. Do you hear people say, where was the father? Yeah. So that type of thinking, we need to re-examine it. And again, it's a belief that we really need to be able to challenge. It would be really, really helpful. And I have noted that some of the men have come out, but it would actually be really, really helpful if a lot of men did not bury their heads in shame simply because it is their gender that, you know, is being attacked,
Yeah.
because there is people amongst you that are perpetrators and that are, you know, are perpetuating these crimes, and all that does not mean that you should all now take the fall and hide yourselves in shame. Actually, the activism will make a lot of sense if it
Yeah.
is the men that even came out and said, no, 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 no. This world should be a safe place for our
Yes.
children, for our daughters, for our men. Because imagine a child who has gone through something as traumatic as that, sitting and hearing a man speak out against that. Somehow there will be some confidence that I'll still be able to return for a man. But if I don't hear a man speak about it, the immediate belief that I will form is all men are what? Yeah.
Oh, like we said, it would be pretty heavy today. So, yeah, it's whew. Now, how do you talk
Yeah.
with how do you talk with the parent after their child has disclosed their abuse? How do you
Now, this
approach?
is quite sensitive, Sam. Some breathing exercises, very important, especially when you're dealing with a sensitive topic. Some
Yes.
breathing, because now you're bringing it close to home. And when I say close to home, then you're taking me in my therapy room.
Yeah.
And I obviously can't disclose the number of people, families, survivors, victims that I have sat with to support. I I have an inclination to supporting individuals that have experienced some form of trauma. And for me, childhood abuse, you know, in whatever form it presents, is quite a sensitive topic. And it's it is so sad when it is a child, because many of them will not even verbalize it, even in therapy, because really, like, their understanding of safety has really been distorted. Their innocence has been robbed, you
Yes.
know. Um, uh, it's a complete state of helplessness because they do not even see a future for themselves. And the other thing that I'll also tell you, Sam, is this: the chances of a child that has been sexually assaulted or sexually abused, so the chances of this person actually having another encounter with another person are quite high in most cases.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have sat with children that have been assaulted or abused, not by one person, but by several people. Okay. Um, and it's a complete state of helplessness. It's really them not seeing value to their life, like what's even the purpose of me being here? And
Mm.
if at all there's even any single purpose, it's probably just so that they do not see any sadness in their mother or father or siblings face, or so that they try to protect their siblings from what has happened to them.
Mhm.
So over time, this child even starts believing, I probably deserve it. Because
Yes.
remember, their brain is just developing. They're trying to make sense of the world. And then something like this happens. So it's like it's an orientation to this is what you should expect in this world. This is what happens. Adults are going to defile you. Adults will violate you. And that is okay. All right. So I have been exposed to children that are just coming from being violated, being abused. And I've also experienced an adult, okay, that has
Mm.
lived for so many years carrying that trauma. And now in adulthood, it's chronic anxiety, it's difficulties forming relationships,
Mm.
it's post-traumatic stress symptoms, a whole lot of them, and those would even present like like it's even extremely difficult for me to even have any form of physical contact with somebody. So imagine that for a relationship. I
Yeah.
can't, like, it's a lot of hyper vigilant. I can easily get startled. And also it's abuse of alcohol, of opioids, of whatever substances you can think of.
Mm.
It's behaviors that again are inappropriate. And for adults, you will actually meet an adult and you begin to judge them and to call them out. Can you believe this person? Look at what they do. And we are so quick to judge without actually knowing that when they were a child, their orientation was there's no value to your body. I can simply
Yeah.
do whatever it is that I want. When you get an adult, do you expect, especially without any help, this adult to be able to value themselves? So you
Mm.
get individuals that have low self-esteem. You get individuals that will, like, I mean, even potential possibility of suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideations, suicidal attempts are quite high for children. So it's quite sad, Sam, that somebody's 1 minute or 2 minutes, or for however long they're able to sustain their erection,
Hmm.
has to affect a child or a person for the rest of their life, and they don't get to even think about that. That is upsetting. Like, that is so upsetting, and that is the worst act that a person can ever do, because you are not just robbing this child of their childhood, but you're actually just literally killing them. Yes, we will see them alive, but
You're killing them.
psychologically, you have killed this person.
Now, is it common for children who've been sexually abused to not tell their parents or the people close to them?
Oh, so common. Oh,
Mm.
very common, Sam. Very, very common. It's actually more common for one not to say than it is for one to report it.
Mm.
Now, we have many levels of reporting. There's
Mhm.
those that don't say anything at all and will keep it to themselves. I was reading some comments on one of the pages on Facebook, and somebody just said, you can post anonymously what has been your experience. Have you been abused? And you should have seen the number of people that came out and just shared their experiences, and how a
Mm.
lot of them would even talk about how it's the first time that I'm disclosing this. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that label. Totally, silent about it. Do not
Mhm.
tell anybody. And then there's the other label of people that would identify somebody that they trust, a child that will identify somebody that they trust. So it could be a mother, it could be a sibling, it could be an aunt, a grandmother. And when they do, the silence is met here. It's don't tell anyone else. Bushapal
Yeah.
bobo wae bako, o tapadi
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Not to kwebo audience. Wanfwa, nkalanda na vena, and then olonala mutamfia, if it's somebody, it's a dependent in the house, nala
Mm-hmm.
mutamfia, tukakabepo pano, and that's it, go. If it is a maid, if it is a dependent in the house, then that's who would even go. You know, if it's a child that you got from Kumushi or from your sibling who passed away, and this child is assaulted by your husband, then you even decide, you know what, kashana longa, tampapo, kavie kabwelele kumien, you know? So there's that level of also silence, okay? There's even a level of you go to the police actually, and then they dismiss you. They will all sit there, and again, this is another level of authority. Remember, even the act itself is achieved because this person has some sort of power over you, right? So already, the confidence that you have in authority, like, is really just so distorted. But then there's still some little confidence, and you decide to go and report. And when you go there, because you have reported it, a week later or a month later, there's even no evidence whatsoever because you bust. So you know what? So yes, it's all these stories sometimes that even then make a new victim lose a lot of confidence in the hierarchy of reporting or any form of authority, because how many testimonies do we have? How many cases do we have of these perpetrators actually being penalized for these acts? A child abuser will be apprehended, but they will get bail.
Yeah. That's a lot of cases. But don't you think keeping quiet about it is doing more harm than good?
It does do a lot of harm, definitely. But it's very difficult to say. I will really, really be honest with you. It really depends. Like, the dynamics really differ. And if I really now have to be so honest and sit in places where a lot of the cases I've come across, either my clients and or have sat in, if I have to apply my empathy, I would tell you this, Sam. There are situations where reporting it has actually caused more harm for a person. Truth be told.
How so?
So like I told you, it is this person whose only hope is living under this roof because that's the only opportunity they get to education. It's probably an orphan. They probably got them from Kumoshi, you know. They have no other relatives, no non-relatives. And then the owner of the house, either male or female, begins to abuse them sexually, right? They go and report to the neighbor or to the aunt or to the whichever. And then they are even threatened. They are blamed for it. They are told it is your fault. So already imagine what that is doing to the child. That it's like Ichilonda, and then now we are actually even cutting it deeper. This is not enough. Let's cut you deeper. Let's now pour even more psychological harm to you. You know, let's pour more verbal abuse to you. Already this child is navigating what just happened to them, and they do not even understand it. They're trying to make sense of it. And so they are there calling out for help. And then now the people that receive this news even just perpetuate the discomfort by doing more harm.
Yeah.
So I'm not seated here encouraging that people do not report, all right? And that's why we really, even as we do a lot of this awareness and all that, we need to also send out a lot of information on facilities, on places where people can go to report and be effectively helped.
Yeah.
A healthy, support, because there's certain support that is unhealthy and it just perpetuates the discomfort. It perpetuates the psychological trauma that comes with being sexually abused. Okay. So, yes, not reporting for that moment may feel like it is the solution, but ultimately, and that's why I was telling you to say sometimes what you will encounter is an adult that is still living in the shell of their childhood and what that meant for them.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, time's up. We have to wrap it up here. I think we'll be back for a
We
second
needed
part.
2 hours. Yeah.
We'll be back for a second part with you. Thank you so much for making time to talk to me, Ernie. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Sam, and all the best with this. Please continue with these conversations, and
Thank you.
yeah, let's see what change we can contribute to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you or anyone you know has been or is going through what we spoke about in the program, please see your nearest counselor or report to your nearest police station.